So I'm doing a little series of videos on prayer. The first one was what prayer is. It's a conversation, an intimate conversation between a creator and his creation. The second one focused on why we should pray, and we should pray not just to change our circumstances, but that God would use our circumstances to change our hearts and to mold us more towards the image of Jesus. This one, I want to talk about what we should pray. And here, I find that the best example that we have is the example that Jesus gave us himself. See, his disciples came to him and said, Jesus, how should we pray? What should our prayer life be? They saw Jesus already model for them the importance of prayer. Jesus would often go by himself and he would pray in lonely places, early in the morning, late at night, even in the middle of the afternoon. Jesus would also pray out loud for the people that he was with. And so they saw him pray publicly and they saw him pray privately. And so I guess their thought was the same that I have. If this is such an important part of our Christian walk, how do we do it? And so here's what Jesus taught them. In Matthew 6, he says, "This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." So I want to take just a minute and unpack this. So he says, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name." That word hallowed means adored or magnified. It's the idea of making something beautiful. Like when you see a piece of jewelry in a museum, they don't just lay it down on a table. Instead, it's put in a case with lighting all around it so that that piece of jewelry shines for all the beauty that it has. And so God, who is full of all the beauty, we put him on display when we say, hallowed be your name. It's like shining a light on it and putting it on a pedestal and putting it in a glass case. We are saying God is amazing and we are recognizing it. We are adoring God. We are making that which is beautiful look even more beautiful. Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God's kingdom is done completely in heaven. The place where he dwells is full of the kingdom and will of God. And yet here on earth, we live in a place that's covered with sin and darkness and death and Satan. And so his kingdom doesn't happen. His will doesn't happen on earth just like it does in heaven. And so what we're praying when we say, your kingdom come and your will be done on earth, just as it is in heaven, means if it's done completely in heaven, may it be done completely here. And when we take that into our own personal lives, we're saying, may my life and heart, may my family, may my relationships, may my work exhibit the kingdom and will of God to the fullest extent, just as it does in heaven. This is a prayer of surrender. And so when we first start, our prayer should be about worship because we are worshiping the creator of the universe. And now we are surrendering our own will to his, just as it is in heaven, completely and absolutely. Then our prayer goes into, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. We're really good at asking for things that we need. And so there is a place for this. I love that Jesus doesn't negate that. There is a place for us recognizing, God, you are the one who gives all things. And I'm in need. I'm in need financially. I'm in need health-wise. I'm in need physically. I'm in need of relationships. God, here is my need. But I don't think we're good at asking for our daily bread. We are often good at asking for our 5-year and 10-year bread. I want this raise so that I can. And sometimes I think even in our prayers, we show off our discontent because we don't just want what we need right now. We want the things that we want for far deep into the future. But just like the manna in the desert was given to them every single day, so now our dependence on the Lord is a daily walk with God. Elizabeth Elliot is one of my favorite authors, and she once was quoted for saying, the problem with the Christian life is that it's so very daily. And I think that's so true. It's really easy sometimes to surrender the big, huge acts of dependence to God like when I chose to marry my husband, there was this thought and question of, is this the one? And then there is this surrender of my will. Yes, Lord, I think this is who I'm supposed to marry. I'm going to walk in this. It was a big one, right? I spent a lot of time wrestling through it. And then eventually there was a big decision of surrender. But the problem with the Christian walk is that it's so daily. Every day there's tiny little things that I need to surrender to the Lord, tiny little things I need to give over to Him, tiny little things I need to ask for Him. And so this prayer is a prayer recognizing our dependence on God. Like children, we ask God for our bread. And if you have children, you know that they don't mind asking for the snacks and the bread and the water and the juice and the milk and whatever it is that they need at that moment. And so like children, we need to ask our Father to give us our daily bread. The things that we need to bring to Him. And in so doing, we recognize our dependence on our Creator. He says, give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts. This is a prayer of confession. And what I would encourage you to do is take the Lord's Prayer and then flesh it out in an intimate way with your Creator. What are the debts that you have incurred against your God? What are the sins that you have committed that have kept you from a relationship with God? And so then confess them. Lord, here are my debts. And then receive His forgiveness. Because He lavishes on us through the person of Jesus, through His death and resurrection, He lavishes forgiveness on us. And so there's two parts to this. We confess our sin, but then we also receive His forgiveness. And in so doing, we recognize the redemption that is ours through Jesus Christ. And so this is a prayer of confession. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Oh, this is so hard. It is so hard to think through all the things that have been done to us, the harms that have been committed against us. And I don't think we can do this on our own. I don't think we can forgive those who have hurt us, those who have injured us, those who by our human nature would lead to bitterness, would lead to anger, would lead to resentment. And yet, through the same blood that forgives us of our debts, we are able to forgive others of theirs. We are able to extend forgiveness to those who have injured us. And so I think this prayer, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, are both a recognition of what Jesus has done for us on the cross. Because of what Jesus has done, I can extend forgiveness. Because of what Jesus has done, I can receive forgiveness. And so I think Jesus here is giving a little foreshadowing taste of what's to come. We can't do this on our own. We cannot forgive and be forgiven on our own. But through the cross of Jesus, we can. So I want to go through all these real quick. Again, we start with worship. Hallowed be your name. Then we recognize our surrender to His will. Your will be done in my life, just as it is in your kingdom. Then we recognize our needs. God, I recognize my dependence on you today. There isn't anything I can do on my own. I need you today. And then we receive His forgiveness and we extend forgiveness to others. Then He says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. There is a very real truth that there is an enemy that is out to get us. An enemy who wants to seek us out and destroy us completely. And yet, our prayer life should be a prayer of protection over us and those around us to keep us from the evil that surround us. Until Jesus returns, we will be surrounded by temptation, by evil, and by darkness, by death. And yet Jesus says, even in this prayer, that the Lord is able to protect us from the evil that surrounds us. And so He finishes this prayer by praying this. Now, many of you have memorized this prayer, and you know that there's a little addition that's added on. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. And this is a beautiful capstone because it ends where it begins. If we begin our prayer by saying, hallowed be the name of our God, I will surrender my will to His, then we finish it by declaring the same thing. His is the kingdom, His is the power, His is all of the things that deserve glory. And so there is a recognition that He is so far above us And yet he is so personal to meet our own needs and to forgive us our sins and to protect us from evil. There is this recognition that God is so big, so other than us. He is so transcendent and enormous, infinite, eternal, glorious, and worthy of our worship, worthy of our surrender. But he's also so deeply personal. And so when Jesus prays this prayer and he models it for his disciples, he's not saying you need to pray these specific words, but you need to have your prayer life filled with worship of the Creator who is so beyond you. Surrender to the one whose will is done in heaven completely. Ask him for what you need, receive his forgiveness, extend forgiveness to others, and ask him for the protection from the evil that's all around. Because to him is the glory and the kingdom and the power forever. He is worthy of all of our worship. And so I would just challenge you to take this prayer that Jesus prayed and make it personal. And every day this prayer could be different. When you say, give us this day our daily bread, what is the bread you need today? What is the bread you need right now? When you say, forgive us our debts, what are the debts, the sins that you've committed today, right now, in your time right now with the Lord? What is the temptation and the evil that's surrounding you right now that you need protection from? But every single day those things could change, but the one thing that doesn't change is that God is glorious and worthy of worship. So may your prayer life be filled not just with a list of things that you need, but with worship of the Creator who made you.